Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us right here, Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you for the next couple of hours because, Adam, we're in crunch mode right now. It is official. It's really draft season. We've got a ton of things we want to get through today, some potential league-winning running backs. We've got guys that you can wait on in the later rounds, preseason reactions. We're talking with Dwayne McFarland today. And like I said, Adam, just getting people ready for their drafts. It's a great time of year, and we're deep in it now. We're ready.
That is absolutely true. It is crunch time. This upcoming weekend is one of the biggest draft weekends, as well as the following weekend, which is Labor Day weekend, believe it or not. We are almost here, and yeah, it is heavy. There are some people checking back in that have been gone for a while. That's not a good place to be.
Back.
But
no, it's okay. Welcome back.
Yeah, that's why you need to go to fantasylife.com, use that promo code SXM20 to get your 20% off and catch up on everything you've missed. But yeah, it's crazy how the draft board changes. You know, usually you would think, oh, there's not much information. A lot of these starters in the preseason aren't playing that much. But if you just go look at a draft you did even last week, so one you do tonight, there is so much movement. It's insane. It's only going to continue.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say we're just getting started because it feels like we'll talk about guys this week and then in a couple weeks it'll be totally different. It's exactly. I mean, I'm going to continue probably for a long time to use the Quinshon Judkins news as a perfect example of just how quickly things can change and how quickly our minds change on things, or that we have to adapt. I shouldn't say that our minds changed, but we had to adapt based on news that we got, and so that's why it's important to be listening to us because we're here to break it all down. What'd you see?
The charity draft that we're doing for St. Jude on CBS, pick one is off the board. Do you want to guess who went?
Is it not the usual suspects?
It is not the usual. Well, it's not the consensus number one.
Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, he went one.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. I've seen that a couple times recently. Not in those kinds of formats, but more best ball. But again, sometimes I just think that people, draft a lot on best ball and they want to, make it a little bit different and get the guys.
A different build, yeah.
Wow, Jahmyr. So does that we could get Bijan at 3?
We'll see. Yeah,
unless
we are
someone
picking
is
3.
listening and they're
Yeah, they're like, oh, that's who they want. Okay, someone else. No, we do. We want MarShawn Lloyd.
Yes,
at 3,
we do want,
so you can take him at 2.
Krosky Merritt 103 is going to be our pick. But you're right. Things change so quickly. And that's why we appreciate everyone hanging out with us here. And we're going to continue to give you, the best news and analysis for your fantasy football drafts. You said something last week, Adam, that stuck with me, where we were talking about quarterbacks and our favorite late round quarterbacks. And you said, you know what? You guys listening to us can just take an elite quarterback because we're going to find you the guys in those later rounds that are going to help you win your league. And that's exactly how we feel. So that's what we're going to do today, every day going into this week. And again, we're talking with Dwayne McFarland here in about 10 minutes, next segment, to break down everything that he saw in the preseason. You want to talk about some rumors? It wasn't necessarily a ton of news over the weekend, Adam, but we had some rumors that I want to address and see, where we're at with them, how this affects our drafts. The first one being that the Commanders are shopping Brian Robinson. This feels like it could be a big deal if they really go ahead with this. There were reports from Jordan Schultz that they are shopping Brian Robinson Jr. They obviously have listed Robinson as the starter on the depth chart, and then it's Austin Eckler. We've talked about, Jeremy McNichols before, Chris Rodriguez, but it's really Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, who has been the star of training camp, almost the training camp darling of 2025. So when you hear this, do you look at Brian Robinson Jr. and say to yourself, well, I don't necessarily know if I want to keep drafting him. Maybe he wasn't even in, your targeted range, but what are your thoughts on, this potential shopping of Brian Robinson?
Yeah, this does not mean he's going to get traded. We see this a lot. It could be them putting this out there to see if there's any interest. I mean, he's in the final year of his rookie deal, and he hasn't been that good. When you look at it, he's nothing special. So for me, he wasn't in my draft plan for where he goes. I was not taking him. He doesn't catch a lot of passes, and he's dependent on touchdowns and yards. So he wasn't part of my plan, and we'll see if this even happens or if it gets done. But yeah, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt has been getting rave reviews throughout training camp, and he is a player that has just been on the rise. If you were doing a draft, maybe even 2 months ago, he's in the final rounds. I know in the Scott Fish Bowl, I got him in round 18. Nice. And then I did a beat Adam Ronis league. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
I don't
just
even
last
remember now.
week.
Yeah, last week. I guess it was last Monday. And he went first pick around 8. And I was just like, why? Now, when this is said and done, maybe that looks like a genius pick. I think you said you saw a draft that he went round 6 last night, or I think it was that was mentioned right before the show. Maybe it was
Yeah.
Brendan who said it. But um, yeah, I I'm interested to see where he goes in these upcoming drafts, but he has really risen to the point where you were getting him in double digit rounds, and now he's with this news just going to go even higher.
Yeah, he's going to continue. I think he's going to start going earlier in drafts where you could refresh the ADP pages, but he's going to start going so early that it's not going to be reflected right away in the ADP changes. And so it's one of those things where we try to not, overreact. We always try and do that. But with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, it's almost something that you can't deny what we've seen. I mean, his moves, he's going now pick 149 on CBS. He's going pick 167 on Underdog, 170 on ESPN. He's not hiding anymore. He's not a last round, late round dart throw like we had said before. So it's interesting. Again, these are all just rumors right now, right? This is a rumor. Maybe they're trying to shop Brian Robinson because realistically though, Adam, if there is a world where Brian Robinson wasn't on this team anymore by the time the season started, or maybe during the season before the trade deadline hits, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt would more than likely take over his role. That's kind of that he was the handcuff to Brian Robinson. It's not necessarily him going up against Austin Eckler. So he would step into that role is really what I've been reading and really how he profiles as well.
Yeah, because Eckler's still around. We know he's not
Yep.
going to get a big workload, but can still do things in the passing game. So, yeah, that would be a big boost for Krosky Merritt if somehow they were able to trade Brian Robinson. Again, this might not even happen at all, but either way, you have to be aware that if you were eyeing Krosky Merritt as a late round pick, that price is changing. He is absolutely going to move up. And it's I guess at this point it's kind of tough to gauge where to take them
Yeah.
because someone might just jump like they did yesterday in the 6th round. But that's also sometimes the immediate reaction to news. That draft could have happened like right after this news broke and someone sees it and immediately thinks for the best case scenario for Krosky Merritt and says, yeah, I'm taking him now. I want him.
And that's sometimes we want to, we have to temper our expectations just a little bit because, again, this is just news that maybe, like you said, they're putting out there to see if anyone really wants a Brian Robinson Jr. in their backfield. The worst spots that if this did happen, the worst spots that it would be the Cincinnati Bengals. It would probably be the Chicago Bears. Those would be bad because we're especially the Bears is one that I saw because we are drafting DeAndre Swift like he's, one of one in that backfield. Maybe there's a Thunder and Lightning combination, but really with Ben Johnson there and them not going out and getting multiple running backs this offseason. Besides in the draft, we like Kyle Monungai, but he's one of those later last round picks that you can go get. Roshan Johnson is still there. So all that to throw out there that Brian Robinson to the Bears wouldn't be fun for my DeAndre Swift shares. I'll just say that.
No, it would not. Obviously the Cowboys have been mentioned, but I don't see that happening in the
Oh,
division.
jeez. Yeah, no,
The
you've got three
Texans were
great
another team.
guys. Why would they want
Texans.
to do that?
The
The
Texans.
Texans would be good. I wonder.
Depending on Mixon, and again, we don't
Again,
really
though,
have
we're
any
not
update.
drafting. I mean, Mixon is someone, if we talked about a do not draft list right now, I'm not, there's no scenario I feel like right now where even if I got news that he was good to go for week one, Adam, I don't think I want any piece of that backfield. Nick Chubb, I haven't seen where he's been going lately. Because I know some people say, well, someone has to run the ball, and that's completely fair. But to me, especially if we get news about Joe Mixon, I'm still not drafting him. Nick Chubb has well, he's going pick around 160 ESPN, 151 on Sleeper, 123 on Yahoo. That's early. But I just don't know if I want anyone in this backfield besides maybe a later round Woody Johnson pick, right? Or what are you doing with this backfield?
Yeah, I've generally stayed away from it too. I do think they're going to be more a pass heavy offense. I think they're going to lead
Yeah.
on CJ Stroud now, especially since they brought in some weapons at receiver for him. So that's the way I'm looking at it, that I just don't see much out of this running game.
Let's add one more running back to the Dallas Cowboys and see what happens. One of them has to hit, right?
It's
Between Javante, Jaden Blue, Miles Sanders. It's perfect.
yeah. And
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I think Blue would be the guy most appealing to me, but he needs to get back on the field and see if
Yeah.
make sure this injury is not something
What is
that will
it?
keep him out longer.
What is it that he has right now?
I think it's a heel injury, ankle.
Oh man, it just feels. Are we treating this backfield like we are with the Jacksonville Jaguars? Where if we just say this is what we always try and maybe target a little bit ambiguous backfields, but that's for people doing multiple drafts, right? Because sometimes you could look at a situation, Adam, and say, you know what, I'm only in a handful of drafts. I'm only in 2 or 3 this season. I don't know if I want to risk, taking one of Tank Bigsby, then the next time taking one of Travis Etienne. Does it feel like the same thing with the Dallas Cowboys here in this backfield?
It feels like we can get more value out of Jacksonville's backfield. And I think that's why people are so interested with Liam Cohen there. They're like, this could be a valuable backfield. Now it's trying to figure out who is going to be the main guy and what the roles are. In the past, we've said that about Dallas, but it's also not the same offensive line and clearly not the same caliber of talent that is out there. So I think it's a little bit different. I think Jacksonville is definitely real appealing if you get the right fit. There's also more talent in that backfield than what Dallas has right now.
For sure. And like you said, hopefully Jaden Blue just recovers from his injury and we see him back out there because that's the guy looking at my exposure right now that I have the most of. Javonte Williams, I understand. He's got the 1 year, $3 million contract, but Adam, he just has not been himself since that 2022 injury. And it's been unfortunate. And it's been a series of events or a series of seasons where we've said, okay, maybe he can flash what we saw in 2022, but it was the ACL, it was the LCL, and a word I can't even pronounce right now because it's just too early, Adam. But it was just a really bad injury. And so I think when you look down at this depth chart and you say, okay, if you want to take him, just know that post injury, I mean, yards after contact is backup worthy. I think it's 2.7, 2.4 over the last couple of seasons. Missed tackles force per attempt is down 10 yards, 10 plus yard attempts is down as well, like RB3 worthy at 9%. So it's just not great. So maybe a borderline RB4 is kind of what you're getting out of a Javonte Williams. I'm just saying his name because I know that he's going the earliest in drafts out of anyone in this backfield for the Cowboys.
Yeah, he's been the healthiest so far in training camp, and that's why I guess the one thing is he can catch the football, but I am not expecting much, and I just rather take someone else in that range that has the ability to put up a higher ceiling. I
Yeah.
just think there's no high ceiling for Javonte Williams.
Next here, top of the hour, we always like to come in, make sure you guys know all the news and some of the rumors that are going on. This one's more injury. I did want to mention Achane. Devon Achane will miss time with a soft tissue lower body injury. So he was obviously inactive for the Dolphins game on Saturday going up against the Lions. Head coach Mike McDaniel came out and told reporters after the game that Achane has a soft tissue lower body injury that will keep him out between, the quote was, days and weeks, which again, we don't love that when you're going into drafts. He did add, though, that he's not concerned about his availability for the season opener. Of course, Adam, we'll always hear that right now. And then all of a sudden it's time for week one and they say, you know what? He's a little bit banged up. So he missed 6 games with a knee injury as a rookie in 2023, played all 17 games last season. Worried about this, looking at Jalen Wright, Ollie Gordon, their rookie, a little bit more in those later rounds to draft as a backup just in case. What do you think here?
You have to be a little bit worried, obviously, since there's no clarity either on what it is. Like, is this the hamstring, quad? Like, what is this
It's a
injury?
soft tissue lower body injury.
Yeah, that
Is that
just
not good? Is that
gives
not good
us
enough for you?
a lot to speculate on. So
Yeah.
it's tough because he's going like late first, early second round. So you'll probably see people in that range now. They'll pass. They'll be like, I'm just going to take the healthier, safe player. And then he's going to drop a little bit. And that's where you have to say, okay, do I jump in here? Because again, he has this injury now. He could be ready week one, could be ready week two. So sometimes there is a buying opportunity, but you also need a little bit more specific information on this.
He's been one where I've seen him drop out of the first round before this news. It
Yeah,
feels like some people
he
have,
goes early
it's
second
yeah,
sometimes.
it's a hit or miss depending on where you're drafting. In the back half of the draft though, pick 10, 11, 12. I've been, of course, because that's where I draft all season, Adam. I can't get out of it besides the
Not when
draft
you're
that we're
with me.
doing.
When you're with me, you get
Yeah,
picked
there we go.
three.
We get three again. Aren't you excited for that to draft the same exact
I'm gonna have
players?
this. Yeah, it's like crazy.
But it is, I've seen him, drop out of the first round before, go with that, 1-2 turn. And so it is something, you're right, where we don't want to overreact again, but you could be in drafts this weekend or even starting today and see him fall just a little bit. And you're going to know that that's kind of what he's dealing, whatever it could be, the soft tissue injury. But we'll see. Again, the Dolphins offense has question marks, but it feels like when you look at Achane, Adam, it's a profile where he's going to be that pass catcher that we saw for the last couple of seasons, and then he's got that big playmaking ability. So you see why he goes where he does. But again, we'll have to monitor. I've taken him a couple times only because I've been in the back half of drafts, and sometimes he does fall. I was at pick 14 in that draft last week, and he fell to me, and I was like, you know what? At 14, I can get him and a really solid wide receiver coming around. And so I was okay with it, but I do understand why some people are a little bit more out on him.
No, look, he's appealing because when Tua is the quarterback, his numbers are insane. I think it was like 22 fantasy points per game in PPR when Tua was the quarterback last year.
Wow.
So yeah, the splits are pretty stark, and we know he's gonna be heavily involved in that passing game. I mean, there were games he was catching 6, 7 passes with Tua at quarterback, and you're playing in a full point PPR league. That just gives you such a ridiculous floor and ceiling every single week. So I get the appeal of HN because we've seen it when Tua's on the field, he's getting him the football, and he did stay healthy last year. You mentioned a rookie year, he missed some time. I
Rookie year
know he's
wasn't
not the
good.
biggest back, but also he was pretty good between the tackles in his rookie year, not as good last year. So he's shown the ability to do it in a multitude of ways. But the key is obviously right now his health, and then of course he needs Tua to stay on the field because if Tua is out, his numbers take a huge hit.
Yeah, but like you said, 11 games with Tua Tagovailoa last year, averaged 22.6 points per game. So that is really good. I think he only had a high ankle sprain last season, but he was still able to play. I
Yeah.
think is what we talked about last year. But again, he's got a really good range of outcomes. So we'll just have to again monitor. Don't overreact. But if you're in drafts today going into this weekend and we don't get any updates on HN, that's why it's soft tissue lower body injury with a with a days to weeks timeline. Adam, just what we love for fantasy in our drafts. It can never get a solid answer.
Well,
Because
it's
my
better than the news we got on McCaffrey last year.
that's true. Hey, do you remember that was bad? Monday night. That was the Monday night game where people
Yes, it
couldn't.
was
I
when
mean, people
probably
couldn't
no
replace
one.
him.
Yeah, especially if your waivers was closed and you didn't
Yeah.
have a backup, you were
Um,
taking a zero most likely.
oh my gosh. We're gonna talk with Dwayne McFarland though. We have to go through all the preseason utilization, see what his biggest takeaways are while you're going into drafts. We're gonna do that here coming up next. Dwayne McFarland is back with us again. You know it by the music. His walk up music is here, and you know it because I have to tell you, new customers who bet just $5 can get $200 in bonus bets using promo code Fantasy Life for DraftKings. That's Fantasy Life code only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Dwayne, welcome in
Thank you. Thank
with a
you. I'm
read
super
and
hyped.
welcome music. Look at that. You're big
I
time now. What are we
I
doing?
well, look, I have to say that music always gets me pumped. That music really gets me excited to crunch the numbers. You know what I mean, Kendall?
Oh, I get what you mean. And everyone can see the numbers that you have crunched at You see what we're doing here, Dwayne? It's just like mid-season form. Fantasylife.com because this article is 100% free, so we'll make sure to tweet it out as well. But if you guys want the rundown for every single team that played in the preseason over the weekend, make sure you go to fantasylife.com and check it out. Dwayne, we won't start with quarterbacks because there's nothing to talk about, unfortunately. Or else I would have asked you a quarterback question, but I think my biggest question right now going over the weekend is Travion Henderson. How much Travion Henderson do you have? And really, like, what are the expectations? Let the people know how good this could be with Travion Henderson on their fantasy teams.
Yeah, I mean, Trevion Henderson also put out an article last week around running back draft strategy and talked about how Trevion really is sitting there in that sweet spot in your home leagues in rounds 5 to 6 is probably going to be more like rounds 4 to 5 now because the dude just won't stop putting up, highlight plays, scored another touchdown this weekend.
Mhm.
So he's a major part of my plans. He's on over 20% of my teams. I don't know if I'll be able to keep the number that high, Kendall. That's in like 120 drafts because we're just stupid.
Yep.
But the price is going to continue to rise. I will say that me and Ian Hartitz took him last week at pick 3-4, round 3, pick 4, in a league over on Real Time Sports where we know these are $300 leagues, but we just know how quick the running backs go. But I mean, the guys that went after him were Alvin Kamara, Chuba Hubbard, lots of guys with questions. And so when I get into that range, I'm just like, and Omarion Hampton's off the board, I'm just like, give me Trevion Henderson. But I will tell you guys, I am not a risk averse player. I like to swing for ceilings.
Yeah.
I like to swing for big outcomes. I will say this though, Trevion Henderson, so in the last 2 games, he's not been the starter, and this weekend we had Antonio Gibson start over him with Ramondre Stevenson resting for an unspecified injury, which also, it might just be, good God, this guy Trevion Henderson's really good. What the heck am I going to do? But when you watch Henderson, on the field, it's all the stuff we saw in college. So it's not really surprising to see it in preseason, but it's a reminder, right, of how explosive this player is. And he played on a loaded offense in college where they didn't have to get him the ball in the passing game all the time, Kendall, because it was Ohio State. I mean, when you have Jackson Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and Jeremiah Smith and Marvin Harrison, no duh, you're not going to get a lot of targets, but this dude is a really good player in the pass game. So I honestly think there's also a pretty good floor here. Because we can go back and we can look at these players historically that have had this type of archetype, even in a part-time role as their rookie seasons. And we've had some massive years. Now, will he get to these levels? I don't know. But Alvin Kamara, like, the dude didn't even have 150 carries his first year, Kendall. He just did most of it through the passing game. And when you look at the pecking order of the receivers here with the Patriots, like, nothing is screaming that it's like an absolute lock. Like, we think Stephon Diggs is going to be good, but he's an old wide receiver coming off of an ACL. We like Kyle Williams, but he's a rookie. That's real. I mean, we like Pop Douglas, but you're not centering your offense around him. So I just think there's a lot of outs, even if this guy doesn't get 50% of the rushing attempts to come through for you in a really big way in fantasy football.
Well, Breece Hall come through for you in fantasy football this year. Obviously, a lot of concern right now with that Jets backfield and the way they're deploying these running backs. What's your take from what you've seen so far in the preseason?
Oh, man, this one makes me so sick, Ronis, because Breece Hall, I don't know where you stand, but it's like when I watch the player and then when I look at the data, I know this is a guy that has the skill set to just own an NFL backfield. Like he's got the passing down chops, he's got the size, he's got the speed. You can use him down inside the 5-yard line. He really is one of these players that checks every single box, has good NFL draft capital. But we're far enough away from that, and you got a new coaching staff, and this coaching staff was used to doing this with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I'll say this: I don't think Braylon Allen is as good as David Montgomery. Like, I just flat out don't. Now, I don't think Braylon Allen is a terrible player, but he really wasn't good last year. He's not been good this preseason, but doesn't matter what I think. And sometimes those numbers don't matter. If the coaches have something in their mind that is what they want to do, and you know how this goes, Ronis, I think this is the most unpredictable component of fantasy football every year, especially at the running back position, is coaches will just do weird stuff, man. They will just do things you cannot predict. You can't comprehend. I'll say on the positive note for Breece, he still handled 61% of the snaps. Guys, that's still on a running back one range. Now, we didn't have Isaiah Davis this weekend. He did not play due to an ankle injury. The other thing I'll say is Braylon Allen is not as clear the backup as people think. Last week, when you had Isaiah Davis available, it was really Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis splitting the reps that Breece Hall wasn't getting. And last week, by the way, Breece Hall handled 75% of the rushing attempts with the starters. So part of me is like, okay, I need to listen to this. He's already moving down draft board, so I think it's already getting priced in. But I'm kind of contrarian on it because I'm like, there's a world where he's still getting enough work that if people want to let him fall like to the end of round 4, they're really scared of him. I'm not afraid to scoop him. I'm not going to try to grab Breece Hall at ADP probably at this point. I'm just going to take him whenever he falls past it. But definitely have some fears at the same time. He has the talent profile that if it does go his way, we know it can really unlock the upside. The only other challenge here, and I don't, tell me your thoughts on it, Ronis. The other big challenge is, man, this offense could just be it could be crappy. I mean, Justin Fields looks like Justin Fields. Let's just be honest. We don't have to say he looks bad. Justin Fields looks like Justin Fields.
Yeah, the only thing is that they probably are going to be the most run-heavy team in football. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And look, with Fields,
part of those carries are going to Fields.
Yeah.
So if you're the most run-heavy team and 2 other running backs plus you and a quarterback, it's like, well, they better be really run-heavy.
Speaking with Dwayne McFarland right here, Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. You can check out this article live at fantasylife.com, 100% free. Tyler Warren Dwayne, is this the same? And now we're not here to say that Tyler Warren is Brock Bowers, but does this not feel like the same situation where you talk about maybe a potential bad quarterback, maybe an offense that we don't want a ton of pieces from? But what are you looking at with Tyler Warren, and what have you seen over the last couple of weeks with him?
Well, a few things. Number one, sorry, Ronis, I was not trying to cut you off. I thought we were going to get to go back and forth there. So I feel like I probably cut off a good point that Ronis had, and so I apologize.
Get back to it. Come on, Dwayne.
But Tyler Warren, my most drafted tight end through 120 drafts. And I want to say, guys, like, this sounds bad, but like, this is why you need to be over at Fantasy Life. I was talking about these players 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. They were all in the write-ups for the draft strategy. Now they're climbing up drafts because they're doing these things in the preseason. But with Tyler Warren, there's a few things here. Number one, Kendall, this scheme is perfectly built for this player. Okay. There's so much RPO action. There is so much work in the screen game. And Tyler Warren is just the guy that you want to get those touches to, because I mean, the guy wears John Riggins' number, for crying out loud. Like, this guy wants to be a running back. And so you're just getting him the ball in space. He's getting these easy looks. The other thing that does is it insulates him from the inaccuracy woes of his quarterbacks. So even Anthony Richardson, if he's the starter, on passes 0 to 9 yards, has completed 65% of his passes for his career. Like, that's lower than the NFL average, but we can live with it. He's completed 90% of his passes behind the line of scrimmage. So that's where a lot of these targets are going to come from. Now, Tyler Warren, you saw it this weekend, had that deep catch down the sideline. He can also get vertical on you. But I just think he's going to be the most targeted player on the team. He's not leaving the field. Remember early on, it's like, oh, the Colts always rotate their tight ends. They've never had a Tyler Warren. I mean, they just spent the 14th pick in the draft, guys. Like, come on. Like, we know that he's going to get his playing time. So I absolutely love Tyler Warren. Yes, I am scared of this offense, but I'm not as worried about the target competition around him because of the way the scheme works. And he's just going to be the guy getting the easy looks.
Are you as optimistic on another rookie, and that would be wide receiver Tedero McMillan?
Say yes.
Oh, man. Come on, Dwayne. Yes. Oh, well, okay, guys. Like, listen, like, if you're reading my draft strategy articles, they're all up for free over at Fantasy Life. Like, if you're reading that article and you were looking at my rankings, you are going to draft Ted McMillan in every single one of your drafts. Mm-hmm. Because I've got him at wide receiver 17. He's coming off the board way after that. So you don't have to you don't have to take him in round 3. That's the beauty. You get to take him in home leagues in round 5, and that's honestly, you're getting to be safe. Now, your league mates. If you've got more aggressive league mates that are not drafting, and by the way, go check out fantasylife.com. We've got a great ADP tool. It gives you, I'm using consensus ADP, which is across ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, Real-Time Sports, Underdog, all these different places to get like this really robust, look at the player. But you can go look at where they're going in your league, in your specific league. Right. And so whenever you know that you can get a player like Ted McMillan, Kendall, at such a value, and I've got him ranked so high. Yes, I have massive exposure to Ted McMillan. I got him in my home league this weekend, my home league dynasty league. He fell to me at pick 5. It's a tight end premium, so the 2 tight ends went ahead of him. I was pretty stoked about Ted McMillan, but yeah, absolutely love this player. I think he leads this team in targets easily as a rookie.
Yeah, I agree. I love taking Ted McMillan. And like you said, Dwayne, this is why it's important not only to read your articles at fantasylife.com, but just check our ADP tool, everyone listening, because it is so important how big of a difference where Tedero McMillan is going on Underdog compared to ESPN, compared to Yahoo, compared to CBS. It is a crazy difference where, like Dwayne said, you're going to be able to get him at a way, way, way better price. Dwayne, I want to know, this is not from preseason. I'm going to be totally honest. I want to know your thoughts on Quinshon Judkins, only because we were in the Flex League draft together when this news broke last week, and you took him in the 6th round. So I'm curious, from what you've seen with him in the rookie supermodel, what you looked at him over the last couple of months, to the potential of him. I mean, there is potential that he just goes ahead and signs this contract and plays this season. Is 6th round where you would have been taking him if we didn't have all these question marks?
Well, that's a 14-team league. Also, the way I had handled my running back draft capital allocation up to that point in the draft, I hadn't been super heavy, on the running back. So he just made sense where he was sitting. But I do think that he belongs in that range right there with Pacheco, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, that kind of range. As far as like his prospect, outlook in the rookie supermodel, it was really good. It was just right there below Trevion Henderson. Henderson, the more explosive player, got the nod over him, but he was in that tier. And look, we don't know for sure. Like, is he going to get suspended? We don't know what's going to happen, but I feel fairly certain that he's going to play this year. It could take him some time to ramp up. He's missed all of camp. So I don't think it's going to be a pretty like September for Quinshon Judkins. But I think by the time October gets here, right, this is a player that could be getting 55, 60% of the rushing attempts on his team. And you're not going to have to take him in round 6 of your league, folks. Like right now, this guy's still going around pick 115, 120 in home league. So the people have not quite caught up. Even on Underdog, he's lagging behind. So I think he belongs in that, pick 70 to 90 range, depending on how you've built your roster. And I like him as a running back 3, or if you did go with a 0 or a hero running back build and you're like, okay, I'm looking for someone that could really like be my hammer down the home stretch this year. I do think that Quinshon Judkins, fits that mold. So right there around that Isiah Pacheco range.
What are your thoughts on the Texans wide receivers, especially the rookies, as we saw Xavier Hutchinson play ahead of Jaden Higgins?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't want to overreact to this stuff like in preseason, but let's face it, a lot of folks are playing in fantasy leagues where you get to roster like 14 people, and I mean, because and I have to remember these things because I play in a ton of leagues that have 20 rounds. And so, yeah, of course, you're drafting Jaden Higgins and you're hanging on to him, man, for dear life. And you're just like, hey, I'll wait a month for it to play out. But I realize that's not the case for everyone. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of a crunch here. So a couple things are going on, Ronis, that I noticed in the data. Number one, Kendall, while I was crunching the numbers. Number one, the Texans are really using a lot of personnel groupings. So they played 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends and 2 wide receivers, 21% of the time with the starters this weekend. And then they have a fullback on their roster, Jacob Johnson. They played 21 personnel, which is 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and a fullback on the field. So it's 2 running backs, right? And 2 wide receivers in that personnel. So 42% of the time they were in these heavy looks. So what does that do? That squeezes someone off the field when you're in those scenarios. Last year, we saw a lot of 11 personnel, so 3 wide receiver sets for the Texans. So if they're going to be in these games where they're deciding, hey, we might think that the better fit this game is to really run more of our heavy personnel, that's going to put a squeeze on these players that are really, honestly, there's Nico Collins, and then there's a group of people rotating for that next spot. But right now, it is Christian Kirk. He had a 71% snap share. He ran a route on 78% of Stroud's dropbacks. I mean, this is a veteran that's never been like an elite player, but he's been a really good player, and the Texans know they can trust him. So he played 33% of the snaps on 12 and 21 personnel. So Kirk was one of the guys rotating off, but he was staying out there when they were 11. He did have 2 targets in the game. Now, Higgins, he was only out there 22% of the time on pass plays with the starters. So right now he's behind. And then Jalen Noel was the same. Jalen Noel had a 22%. I think the big takeaway, honestly, Ronis, might be, man, Jalen Noel shouldn't be ranked that far away from Jaden Higgins with the way ADP is working out right now. So Christian Kirk locked into that slot role. Also really just the wide receiver 2 right now. If you have Jaden Higgins, you're just probably going to need to be patient. That doesn't mean you don't draft him, but you need to know what kind of team you have. Did you maybe you took some veterans early and you want to add a player that you can afford to have on your bench and let them grow into a larger role as the season goes? That's Jaden Higgins. But if you're looking for a week 1 starter, you're not going to want this guy in your lineup.
All right, Dwayne. Well, we appreciate you hanging out with us here again. Everyone's going to go to fantasylife.com and check out your article from your preseason takeaways because it's 100% free and it's 100% amazing as well, just like DraftKings. So, guys, make sure you go download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. New customers, I said this before, who play just $5 get $50 in bonus plays using Dwayne McFarland's promo code FANTASYLIFE. He's big time, folks. Don't you forget it. That's promo code FANTASYLIFE only on DraftKings Pick 6 app. The crown is yours. We get to see you next week, Dwayne. Appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. All right. You guys have a good one.
There he goes. The one and only Dwayne McFarland crunching the numbers for us. Make sure you go again to fantasylife.com. Check out that article, 100% free. Adam, we've got running backs. We have to talk about maybe a little bit more Travion Henderson and other running backs who could be league winners. We're going to do that coming up next. This is Fantasy Life right here. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you on this Monday morning. Hopefully you guys are all doing great, had a great weekend. I went to the Rams-Chargers preseason game, Adam, on Saturday. It was fun. SoFi is crazy.
Was it a packed stadium?
It was pretty packed, yeah. SoFi is so big, though. Like, you go in there, and depending on where you're sitting, it just feels like you're in another universe. But yeah, there was a good amount of fans there to watch just a little. Well, we thought maybe to watch Matthew Stafford. That wasn't happening. And we watched just a little bit of Herbert over there. But yeah, the Stafford stuff, I don't know. It just keeps getting weirder to me, Adam. When you've been talking about players and you're like, Tyreek Hill, I've got a bad vibe. Are we not starting to get really bad vibes from the Stafford situation? Because I mean, a Rams spokesperson declined to comment on whether or not Stafford worked out as scheduled, like he was supposed to on Saturday. We have no information that's been going on, so it's been strange for me, Adam. When I look at it, it's been strange because we've usually had everyone has had a good relationship when we look at McVay and how honest and transparent he's always been with some of these injuries, but it just feels like as the days continue and we don't see him get out there, I'm curious if we're ever going to know if he was able to practice on Saturday or not.
Yeah, it is concerning because usually McVay is kind of upfront about things and what he's been saying. It's not that he's lying. It's just Stafford's physical condition is not allowing him to do these things. So it has to be concerning. We've already seen Puka Nacua fall in drafts. I mean, that's really what it is. It's him, Devontae Adams. Those are their two main pieces.
Yeah, but they were expensive picks.
Yeah,
I mean, those are
Puka
pivotal picks.
Puka's was a late first round. Now he's moved into the second round, and I could understand that because that tier of receivers is really close. So if you feel like, hey, I need a tiebreaker, and right now his quarterback's not healthy, let's move him down.
Mhm.
But he goes like the latest is the mid second round. You have to wonder if like he starts to fall a little further as these drafts come upon us, and Stafford's still not on the field. Devontae Adams, third, fourth round. So yeah, those two players are really the ones that you're primarily concerned about. I mean, maybe people took Stafford as a late QB2 in a super flex league. You have to be
Mhm.
worried there, and hopefully you had a third. But yeah, there has to be a concern at this point because nothing has come to fruition from what they've said about his workouts and everything.
Exactly. So again, just something that we're monitoring, Adam. We've been doing that for the last couple of weeks, so we'll see if they give us any answers today. I think there was something going around that they were going to address it today, or let people know during the press conference what was going on with Stafford. So we'll see if we get any updates there. Guys that we hopefully don't have to worry about, though, want to talk to you about league winning potential running backs that you can look at. And we're going to be doing this all week, going through league winning running backs, potentially wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks as well. So when we talk about league winners, Adam, it's exactly what it sounds like. Guys that can carry your teams, just like we saw Bucky Irving do last season, just like we saw Chase Brown do. And I think we could start with Chase Brown. I'm curious if you do think that he has league winning upside for this team. His consensus ADP right now, he's going round three. In the second half of 2024, he just went off. That was exactly when Zach Moss went down with his neck injury, which was unfortunate, but it opened up the path for Chase Brown to go over there. Over an 8-game sample, he averaged 20.9 points per game, 85% snap share, and they didn't really do much. I mean, Zach Moss, unfortunately, is not going to play this season. They've got Samaje Perine down the depth chart. They've got Taj Brooks, who they drafted. But none of those guys are scary or guys that we say, oh, well, they're going to compete for touches with Chase Brown. This is Chase Brown's backfield. And we're kind of just living in his world right now. So when I say league winning running back, with the upside that Chase Brown has, it feels like he is an easy guy to say that he has the potential to be a league winner.
He definitely does, and the price has definitely increased. Like if you're in a real sharp league, he's going in the second round, usually late second round. I have seen some high stakes leagues where he's gone early second round. That's likely because they figured, hey, not going to get him back. And then with some of the potential injury situations that we've discussed in that area, they just push him up. But from weeks 4 to 17 last year, he averaged 20.3 touches per game. From week 9 on, he played 88% of the snaps and averaged 23.6 touches in that span. So, and had over 20 fantasy points. You want a piece of the Bengals offense. You know that they're going to have to put up points. The defense has a lot of question marks. Once again, they couldn't be involved in a lot of shootouts. That helps Brown get some opportunities, score some touchdowns, pile up some receptions. So, yeah, he's in a really good spot, and you can understand why people are excited to draft him and why he's been going higher and higher, it seems, as the draft season goes along.
I mean, even as the 12th running back off the board in some drafts, he has a good shot to
That's
pay off that ADP.
Yeah, that's 12th running.
Yeah.
What league is that? Because I would like to play in that
I
one.
think that's our favorite, ESPN. We need to get on there.
Yeah, I have
I
no
know.
drafts on ESPN.
You should do at least one. What we saw in the preseason, though, too, if you guys, here's the thing: don't let Samaje Perine or the potential of Samaje Perine keep you from drafting Chase Brown because you're going to regret it at the end of the day. He had a 73% snap share, 60% route participation rate with the starters. That was week 1 of the preseason, and that just goes to show how much he could dominate this backfield. So again, he's got high end RB1 upside and could potentially be that league winner that you want on your team. So look at Chase Brown. We've got way more names we need to go through though, and we are absolutely going to give you more names for potential league winning running backs. We're going to do that here coming up next. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you right here talking more potential league winning running backs that you need on your fantasy teams. Already broke down Chase Brown and the potential that he has with the Bengals this season. Do we feel the same way, Adam, about our Seattle Seahawks or mine right now, whichever you want to say, Kenneth Walker? What are we thinking on Kenneth Walker? Again, when we look at him, consensus ADP right now, round 4, I want to say, is usually where he's going. And he did have a career high last season, 16.5 points per game last year. We saw a little bit of his role expand in the passing game as well, but it was just, he went down with injury, I believe, if I remember correctly, 6 games he was out last season. But the one thing that we look at with Kenneth Walker, and I want to include Zach Charbonnet in this, but more Kenneth Walker for potential league winner, is Klint Kubiak coming onto the scene now, because I said that he did have an expanded role in the passing game, was able to take over the 2-minute offense as well when we look at his snaps there. But Klint Kubiak is really ready to involve him in the passing game, and that could make a huge difference for Kenneth Walker in 2025.
Yeah, and of course, we can't talk Kenneth Walker without injuries
Without
because
an
he is
injury.
dealing with this foot injury. Now
He's
he did.
always doing that.
I know he did return to practice yesterday, so that's a good sign. But yeah, I expect big things from this offense with Clint Kubiak and these running backs. We've seen it in the preseason. Whoever has been the running back, there's like wide open holes. This scheme is great. And, Walker last year, he was really good before missing time with injury. His first 5 games, he had 18.1 touches, scored 7 touchdowns, and that was behind a bad offensive line. He also has been more involved in the passing game. He had a career high 53 targets last year in only 12 games. So there's definitely a lot of excitement for Walker because of this scheme and this offense that is just going to cater to the running back. So if you're going to draft Kenneth Walker, you want to try and get Zach Charbonnet, right? There's not a lot of situations where I don't think you need to handcuff every running back. A lot depends on the price, but I think this is a situation where you want to be safe if you can. And he's been reasonable in a lot of drafts that I've seen. Now, maybe that changes here based on the preseason and based on Walker's injury, but we did see last year in the 6 games that Walker was out, Charbonnet averaged 18.3 touches.
Yeah.
And so this is a very valuable backfield. So if you can get both pieces and get Charbonnet at a reasonable price, I think that's what the goal should be.
Because let me give you this scenario. Because to me, when we're talking about handcuff running backs, is Zach Charbonnet now not the best handcuff running back to have in the NFL or for fantasy football? It feels
It,
like
it
if
does.
we have tiers and rankings for these handcuff guys, that he has to be the number 1 now. It just
Yeah,
feels that way.
and there's a couple situations where, like Gibbs Montgomery, that's not
But
really a
that's not a
handcuff because
handcuff because they're
standalone. Same
playing.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say. And
yeah,
then same thing with Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, right?
exactly.
So there's a couple scenarios where it's like that, where to me, if Walker is healthy, you can't start Charbonnet. And now maybe that changes with the coach staff, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like Kenneth Walker is going to be the primary guy. Now, with this preseason injury, does that say to them, hey, you know
hmm
what? We don't want to overwork this guy. He has a history of injuries. We have 2 good running backs. Maybe we split. I guess that's a possibility, but it feels like they're going to go with one main running back.
It feels like it, but that's why I want to just say out loud that if you don't get Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet is not it's not a bad second option. Because what if we live in a world, Adam, where Charbonnet is the best handcuff in fantasy football, and I think that he's good enough to challenge for a larger role in this offense as well. He's just never been able to really unseat Kenneth Walker. But what if we live in a world where the team does decide to manage Kenneth Walker's workload and just play him a little bit differently in 2025 so that they can get a full season's worth of games out of him instead of being like, well, he's out for 3 weeks here, he's out for another 2 weeks here. They've been dealing with that forever. And I know it's Clint Kubiak, so it's a different offensive coordinator, but what if we live in that world? Zach Charbonnet would have immense standalone value if they did that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is possible. I'm assuming it's still going to be mainly Kenneth Walker, but it is something to keep an eye on. But either way, Charbonnet is definitely a good pick, even if you don't have Kenneth Walker.
Exactly. If you don't have Kenneth Walker, don't worry. You can get Zach Charbonnet a little bit later in drafts. It's time for the Fantasy Life Water Cooler, going through the news and notes that you need to know here. Coming up next. Oh, it is that time for the Fantasy Life Water Cooler. And if you haven't been here before with us, welcome. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you right here. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. We're going through all the pieces of news that we saw over the weekend. Adam, we're going through injury updates, everything that we've heard, just to make sure you guys are all ready for your drafts coming up, because that is the most important part right here, is staying up to date on the injury news and everything else that could be going on in the NFL. One place that you can do that besides here, though, is fantasylife.com. So you can go and check out our newsletter in your inbox 7 days a week, 100% free. All of our articles, we just had Dwayne McFarland come on, talk about the utilization report from preseason. Those are 100% free. But if you want a little bit more, if you want to dig deeper for your drafts and for your in-season management of your fantasy team, then you're going to want either tier 1 or tier 2 of Fantasy Life Plus. And you can use our promo code SXM20. That gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription over there. But we've got the mock draft simulator, we've got the ADP tool that we almost always reference every single segment, at least, but every single show for sure. We've got our rankings updated every single day, stats and info that you need. So again, fantasylife.com, that's where you all can go sign up using promo code SXM20, gets you 20% off tier 1 or tier 2. We're in it though, Adam. We're in the water cooler. It's time to go through it. We've got a lot to talk about today. I wanted to mention again, no update on Rashee Rice, but did you see the Tom Pelissero report? I believe it was almost after we were done on the show or sometime late Friday going into Saturday. Tom Pelissero reported that the league initially proposed a double-digit game suspension for Rashee Rice, would have sidelined him for at least half of the season. And so the NFLPA and Rice's attorneys, I guess, said that he needed a much shorter suspension and kind of argued for their case there. But to hear that from Tom Pelissero, that we could have been talking about a potential missing half the season for Rashee Rice, was nuts to hear. And we're still in a situation right now, Adam, where we don't know what's going to happen. We got the update last week, if people don't remember, that he is now going to go and talk to someone on September 30th, which means that he is going to be around for the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, potentially 5, depending on how it looks. But to hear that, Adam, was half a season suspension is a long time.
Yeah, there's also a chance that this could result in a settlement before that date. So again, not saying that's going to happen, but that is a possibility. Maybe not. If that is true, that it was double digits, you could understand why they want a hearing and they want to try and get that reduced. But yeah, that's not good. If you already drafted Rice and you were hoping to maybe have him miss 4 games. So there's still a lot of things that have to be determined here. But in the meantime, drafts are going on and you have to figure out what to do with Rice. So I think there's going to be a lot of people who just don't want to deal with this and they're going to say, I'm not drafting him. But I think there's a lot of people on the other side. It feels like it's 50-50 if you're in a draft. You're going to have people who are very optimistic and go, hey, we saw what he did last year. Yes, it was only 3 games. It doesn't mean you can just take that and put it over an entire season. But even in camp and some of these reports that he's continuously targeting Rice and the potential, what you can get as a guy that maybe you're drafting in round 5 or 6, you don't get a 0 when he's out. A lot comes down to how long the suspension is. If it's 8 games, that is a problem. That is such a long time. And then say he does play the first 4 games and then the suspension kicks in. Exactly. That's even worse. So there's still a lot of things to be determined here. I took Rice last week in that beat Adam Ronis league before all of this in round 5. Now, that's also an overall championship. And I didn't have plans on taking Rice A couple of the receivers I wanted went before me, and then I looked at it, and he was like the best guy on my board. And I said, all right, I already have 3 receivers. He's my 4th, essentially a flex spot, because that's the FFWC where you flex 2 players. So it does put you in a bind, though, early. And remember, with the 2 flex players, now you have an extra starter. So it is tough. So I think it really comes down to your league, the type of competition. You know, if you feel like you're in a league where half the league doesn't know what they're doing, they're not that good, I think you could swing for the fences more. I think if you're in a high-stakes leagues, obviously you also are trying to hit a home run. But there are conservative drafters out there, and they're just not going to deal with Rice and stay away from this situation. Also, find out, too, with these IR spots, can suspended players go on that list? I personally don't think they should. In my league, I tell them, no, it's only for injured players, not guys who are suspended. Like, I just don't think you should be able to put a suspended player like on an IR spot or out, whatever.
I agree.
The terminology is in your specific format. But yeah, it's a challenge. I'll probably.
You're gonna take him.
I'm not going to take him a lot more. Yeah, like this weekend. It is. There's no easy answer here because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
We're all guessing here.
No, we're all guessing. And we want people to know listening. We're just trying to lay out all the potential situations for him because we always want to say, hey, take risks if you want, but make sure they're calculated and make sure you're backing them up with smart picks before and after that. Because this situation, Adam, you said it. So he's meeting in New York on September 30th. So there's potential that he misses or he's able to play the first 4 games of the season. Then we hear from Tom Pelissero over the weekend that there's potential that they could agree to a settlement and that he actually would be just suspended for the first however many games of the year. So there's so many different. And then, Adam, the whole other part and the worst case scenario is not only he gets maybe 6 to 8 games, but what if they take a couple weeks after the meeting in New York on the 30th of September and they say, well, we need a little bit of time to decide what this is going to be, what the suspension is going to look like. Then you start pushing into, okay, he comes back week 13, 14, 15. Once they start pushing that date back or they start to push them deciding how long that he's going to be suspended, it gets into the territory. Again, this is worst case scenario, but something you have to consider is that it gets into the territory that is he here for the fantasy playoffs? Again, worst case scenario is that, and that would be more of an 8-game suspension, a 6 to 8 game suspension, but it's also something you have to try and plan for. And that could be, again, worst case scenario, but is a situation that's still on the table.
Yeah, that's why this is so challenging. And a lot of people are just going to say, look, I'm not going to take him. There's too much risk there. The suspension could be long. And he's not really falling either. Like, I'm generally seeing him go in the 5th round pretty much everywhere. Now, I'm looking at a lot of high stakes boards, so they're going to be more aggressive there because, again, they're playing for an overall championship. I do think in leagues where you start only 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and 1 flex, you can be aggressive there because you're going to have a big bench. Your starting lineup is not that big, so I wouldn't mind taking him in that format because I know that I'm going to have plenty of options to replace him. It's in the deeper formats where okay, I'm going to miss games with this player. I don't know when. I don't know what point of the season, but I know for sure there's going to be a period where he's going to miss anywhere from 4 to 8 games. Then you're going to have other injuries occur. Think about it. If you just drafted 2 weeks ago, okay, now you have questions with the Rams receivers, as we discussed, with Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. Devon Achane we just talked about. Yep. I know we're going to get to another player, Malik Nabers. So this is the whole point of when you take on these risks with these players, you're going to have more injuries come your way. We haven't even started the season yet, and we already have players dealing with issues. Now, some of them might be ready. Maybe it's just training camp, and they're being cautious, and there's no need to push these guys. But we know in this game, we're going to be hit with injuries. So that's why it's so important to not take too much risk on draft day. Like, it's fine if you have Rice and maybe Addison on different teams. But you can't have a team, and this is why I always say the overall rankings don't help you. Because if you just blindly draft off that list, you can wind up with a team with Rice, Brandon Ayuk, and Jordan Addison. And that's because you're not even looking at your roster construction. So you could take one of those players, but when you do two, and then other guys on your roster get hurt. Now you're sitting here and you're going to be like calling us in week 1, like, yeah, so I got like 7 guys out. What do I do? Well, you probably shouldn't have drafted 2 suspended players and then other guys dealing with injuries, because more injuries are going to come your way. So, yeah, it's a tough situation with Rice, because I especially love the player.
Yes.
Now, I tend to be a little bit more aggressive at times too. So that's why I'm willing to take him. But I am going to probably back off just a little bit because of the potential of an 8-game suspension. Like, that seems like
That would be brutal.
That seems like it could happen.
I
right?
mean,
Because
Tom Pelissero's telling us that it was almost half a season.
Right. So if they're pushing for double digits to make an example of him, and then they appeal and they do bring it down, I mean, it still could be 6 games. Like, even 6 games is a lot for the fantasy season.
6 is a lot when you consider that maybe he plays the first 4 and then they have a bye week in week 10. By the way, remember that. So if you're drafting now and looking at Rashee Rice, make sure you don't have players in week 10, multiple receivers out that game too, because he's not going to be there. So that's where we don't usually talk much about the bye weeks, Adam, because we just kind of use it as a guide, and we make sure we know that we can pick guys up off the waivers. But week 10 is the Chiefs bye week. I'll say this too, just to flip over, because Rashee Rice, I'm open to drafting him, but again, he has to fit my roster construction where I'm at, and it's more round 6, and he doesn't usually go that far. That's where I start to get comfortable taking him and making sure that I have good receivers. But like you said, if I've got multiple flex spots, it's going to be really hard for me to take Rice, because it's just one of those guys that I'm going to have to take out immediately, and not be able to kind of replicate that production that he's going to give me. Now, Xavier Worthy is someone that I've continued to draft, and I've really liked drafting this offseason as well. Not that this was before all the potential news with Rashee Rice missing however many games, because to me this season, we've talked about Mahomes. I think Mahomes is able, and there is room for 2 valuable wide receivers with Patrick Mahomes on this Chiefs team this season. So again, Xavier Worthy isn't necessarily cheap either. So you're kind of taking a stand, and it felt like that, Adam, months ago, where people were either saying, I want Rice or I want Xavier Worthy. And to me, I've been okay taking Worthy. He averaged 10.7 points per game in the regular season, had a wide receiver 4 finish. But man, once he had that full-time role towards the end of the season, we saw a lot of really good things from him. Week 14 on, he was averaging really good, like I think it was 19 points per game, 25% target share, 21% air yard share. So again, he's not cheap, but I think I'll end up with a lot more Xavier Worthy than I will anyone else on this Chiefs team this year.
Yeah, he's definitely moving up, especially with this Rice situation. You know, you're seeing him go ahead of Rice in drafts. And
oh, yeah.
He did come on really strong last year to close the year. Early in the year, there just wasn't that great connection there. Mahomes kind of missed Worthy a lot. Looked like Worthy was maybe running some bad routes. They didn't develop that chemistry, but it really came on strong towards the end of last year. And especially if you believe in this Chiefs offense becoming more explosive, and it would be nice to see all of them on the field at once. It feels like there's always a situation where it's injuries. You know, even Hollywood Brown is still dealing with this ankle issue. So to get all of them on the field at once would be fun to see what Mahomes will do with all these receivers.
Yeah, I think Mahomes would think it would be fun too, because they could possibly get back to those more explosive ways. But it's just a wait and see situation, Adam. Like I said, I'm comfortable round 6. He's not usually there, though, when we're talking about Rashee Rice. He doesn't usually fall that far. And if you're taking him there, just make sure I'm loading up at receiver just to make sure, in case he is missing 6 to 8, whatever it could be, early in the season, later in the season. I'm just making sure to load up on really solid wide receivers. I'll probably draft one before him and after, depending on who's there, just to make sure to cover my bases in case he is out for a longer period of time. Let's continue on here. And by the way, again, at Valenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there on X. If you've got questions, if you've got keeper questions, fantasy questions, anything for us, make sure you send them our way over there. And then the phone number, I forgot to send this out, Adam. 888-963-2682 is the phone number to call in. So call in with any fantasy questions you have over there. Should we just keep the bad vibes rolling with Malik Nabers? Back tightness. Again, we're not overreacting to this, but do want people to know Malik Nabers has been sidelined by back tightness. He hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. We just have to remember that. We said the same thing for Ladd McConkey a few weeks ago, where we were sitting here and we said, wait, how long has Ladd McConkey been out? So it's been 2 weeks for Malik Nabers, and they finally told us. ESPN reported that he is dealing with this back tightness, and that they do not consider this to be a serious problem, and that it's a normal training camp issue. But again, always just want to mention it so we have it in the back of our minds. Not great for someone where we're taking him in the first round.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we're both high on him because of the volume he's
Yep.
going to get and the talent. And the quarterback situation is better than last year. You know, Russell Wilson at least can get the ball deep to him. We didn't really see that a lot last year. It was a lot of short passes, which was great because he piled up the points in a PPR format. But maybe you see a little bit more explosiveness from the offense. And even if Wilson's not there the whole year, Jackson Darts look good. You got Jameis Winston. So there's reason to be optimistic about Nabers. This could also be a situation where Nabers is like, you know what? I don't want to practice. Yeah, my back is tightening
Yeah.
up. I'm going to sit out. So I'm not making any changes right now for this
No.
situation unless like more severe news comes out. But to me, it seems like it's a guy that's just like, yeah, I hate training camp. My back's bothering me, my toe. Let me just
We
take
get
it
it.
easy.
Listen, we get it. We've all been there. We're like, no, we don't
Yeah.
want to do that.
So I'm not moving him. He is in a range though where we kind of discussed with Puka Nacua, like where I could see you're on the board and you go, you know what? There's a tiebreaker. Let me pass him. I don't think I'm gonna do it though, because he's like,
No, I
so
have
like,
him ahead of. I have him ahead of Puka Nacua now.
oh, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
for that's
Okay.
easy. But I'm saying like when it comes to like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas, Nico Collins, Drake London, like, do you still have him ahead of all those guys, or would you move him down?
No, I'm not going to move him because of this news.
Yeah,
I
I'm
guess in
not doing it
drafts if
either.
I haven't been able to take much of him though because he's gone by the time I draft everywhere.
So let's say that panic sets in
Okay.
and you're picking in our GST draft on Saturday. You're at pick 12. Neighbors is there.
If
Easy
Neighbors
click.
is there at pick 12, yes, every day. If
I don't
anyone
think he
listening,
will be.
no chance. If
Yeah, I
anyone
don't think.
listening right now is in our GST draft that's on Saturday and they want to let me get Neighbors at 12, yeah, send him my way. I'll take him every single time at 12.
Well,
Really, every
I
single time.
I did like a draft champion, the mock simulator. I wrote it up. It was I think last week, and Malik Neighbors fell to me at 12. So that was
I
an easy
can't.
click.
That
I
is an easy
there's
click.
a chance if people panic on news and they just see, oh, he's
Sure.
dealing with a back, he hasn't practiced, I'm passing on him. So
Adam, I already know what's going to happen to me this weekend. I've actually already seen it in my dreams, actually my nightmares,
what
because you
is
know
it?
what's going to happen. I'm picking 12. In case people don't know, Adam and I are in a very competitive league together that he so graciously invited me to last season with
Oh,
Ani. No, it's good.
I
And
was
now,
waiting for the punchline.
no, I'm no sarcasm here. It is. I mean, there's experts in this draft, and so you have to be. There's sharp people in this. I know exactly what's going to happen to me. I'm going to be sitting there at 12, sick to my stomach, because the two people that are going to be there and going to be probably at the top of my tiers and rankings is going to be Puka Nacua and Achane. I 1,000% know that that's going to happen. And I'm going to have to sit there and wonder, do I want to take both of these guys? And I'm already sick thinking about it. And that's probably going to
Yeah.
be some people this weekend too. That's going to be one of the bigger questions. Not that we have huge question marks on him, but Achane with the lower body injury, we're trying not to overreact to it. But we talk about risk management and assessing risk and saying, okay, what if the worst case scenario happens for both of these players? Matthew Stafford isn't good to go for week 1 or however many weeks, and Achane's injury is actually worse than we're expecting. I can already see it now. And I think a lot of people are going to be in that spot because at the turn, Amon-Ra St. Brown should be gone. Malik Nabers should be gone. Nico Collins should be gone. CMC should be gone. Obviously, J. Jeff, Jameer Gibbs, we're getting into that range. So it's like Genty, Brian Thomas Jr., Achane, Puka Nacua at that turn. People are gonna be in that situation.
You know that Genty was going in the second round of some drafts based off that first preseason game where he had what was it, 3 carries
Really?
for -1 yard or so? Yeah, and now he has a good game this weekend, and now
And
he'll
now
be
he's
back.
going
Like
back up. I
it's
hate
just
that.
insane. Yeah,
Yeah, I did. My heart did stop a little when I got a sleeper notification at the Rams Chargers game that he was going to the blue medical tent,
yeah.
and then he was fine. He came back up. He looked dominant though.
I mean,
He
but
did.
that
No,
shouldn't be a surprise. Like
no, I'm
I
just
wish I was
loving
in
it
those
though.
drafts where he went in the second round last week because that is just insane. I mean, you talk about overreaction to one preseason and 3 carries too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
come on.
I
Like,
know.
but yeah,
I'm
the
with you.
preseason overreaction this year has been insane.
It's been a
Way
lot.
more like like you were sometimes playing 1 or 2 drives, right?
Yeah.
Like Caleb Williams. Oh, he can't throw the ball in the net. This offense is going to stink. He comes out last night, looks sharp, and now people love him. Like, what are we doing?
I know. Same with the Justin Fields stuff.
I joked last night. I don't know if you saw my tweet. I said, so Caleb Williams is QB6 and Justin Fields is QB24 now, right? Like, that's how this works?
Don't overreact. We've got Overreaction Monday that we do during the season, but that's for fun for us to overreact. We're here to calm you down. Make sure you know that you can go to fantasylife.com, check out all of our articles, all of the utilization write-ups from this weekend, and just don't freak out. Let's go to the phone lines really quick here. I want to make sure we get to some phone calls. Let's go out to Matt in, I believe that's Tampa Bay. Matt, what do you got for us?
Hi, thank you for taking the call. I'm in a 12-team PPR league, and for the first time, we're choosing a keeper from last year's draft. So I have to choose one player between Nabers in the 4th, Daniels in the 8th, or do I push way back to the 11th round and keep Chuba Hubbard?
Well, I don't think Chuba's in
this he's definitely out of the conversation.
Yeah. Well, after what we just talked about with Nabers in the back,
I'm still going Nabers.
I'm going to go Nabers at 4.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniels. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the 4th round for Nabers. He's a first-round pick, and even if people push him down, I mean, Kendall is hoping that this happens because she would gladly take Nabers at 12 on the weekend. But
let it happen. Freak out.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned here yet. I think they're just being very conservative, and I'd rather teams do that. You'd rather have these things occur in early to mid-August. You just hope that he's good to go for the start of the season. And even if he somehow misses week 1, this doesn't sound like it's anything substantial. I know he has the toe issue as well, but I'm not overthinking this. I'm keeping him in round 4. He is a guy that can finish top 5. Now, can he finish 1? If the touchdowns are there, he can, because the volume is going to be crazy. 170 targets last year. So I guess the one thing you could say is, will Russell Wilson target him as much as the quarterbacks did last year? But if I am the quarterback and I see Nabers on the field, yeah, I'm throwing to him all the time.
I hope Russ, come on. We say this is a quarterback upgrade. So I agree with you there. I'm keeping Nabers at 4 just because of the insane value that you have. Like you said, 100. We haven't projected 162 targets. Actually, the touchdowns are there too for him. We've got him projected for 9.
I mean,
Solid.
If he could get to double digits, that would be insane.
That puts him at 4 in the receiving for wide receiver touchdowns on the year in our
Look,
projection.
there are very few receivers who get the volume Nabers does. Those guys are so critical. That's why you see receivers go so early, because it's very rare that you're getting a receiver in the double-digit rounds that's going to have 120, 130 targets. Now, the example from the rookie year was Puka Nacua, but that kind of came out of nowhere. It's just you don't see that many guys. We went through it. We were looking at the top receivers in points per game last year. Almost all of them were drafted in the first 4 rounds. It's very rare that you're getting the double-digit receiver that's going to be in the top 20. Everything needs to break right. Whereas with the running back position, you see it way more.
That's why I always want to be in a good spot with my receivers once we get to rounds, 9 plus. Because that's the range where, again, you don't want to be locked into any specific strategy. You can have an idea going into drafts, and we say this, Adam, but there is a part where you get to rounds 9, 10, and I want to make sure that my receiver room is locked and loaded, because rounds 10 plus is where we look at those later round running backs that can climb up depth charts, because it's way easier for them to be able to do that than listen, I love the Isaac Tesla hype. I absolutely love it. But if you're drafting him, it's the final round pick, which doesn't really matter. He's a guy that you could potentially cut. But there's a way better shot that we see a Taj Brooks be able to play earlier and a more significant role in that last round pick than an Isaac Tesla right now. And I love him. I know Thor Nystrom loves him, but just something to think about when you're going later into those drafts. Make sure you're locked with your receivers, especially. We're going to continue on here. We got to go locking them in. Are we locking in these players in Dynasty, looking to sell them or buy them potentially? We're going to lock them in next. Are we locking these guys into our lineups? Which is a scary question when it's still August, Adam, but we have to do it when we're talking potential dynasty trades, guys that you're looking at saying, do I want to keep them? Do I not? And this is brought to you by Xfinity because just like Xfinity, we're locking in some of these guys. Xfinity is being able to introduce the 5-year price guarantee. So you get one consistent internet price for the next 5 years guaranteed. Wish we got that guarantee with our dynasty teams, Adam, because I'd be in a much better place right now than I am, but that's okay. That's why we make some of these moves before the season starts. So let me ask you, locking in, let me go JJ McCarthy. You locking in JJ McCarthy? We've talked about him before, and I know that we've got a couple questions coming in about, super flex and where to pick some quarterbacks. So we'll make sure to continue getting out to the phone lines here. But JJ McCarthy for us has been one of those later round quarterback picks that we have said that we've liked going into 2025. We don't have a huge sample size, obviously, from last season. But to me, we know Kevin O'Connell, friend of the show. We talked to him at the Super Bowl, which was amazing. And he's been this quarterback whisperer. So to me, when I look at McCarthy, I want to believe because they let Sam Darnold go, that they were very comfortable and confident with what McCarthy could bring to this team. So if you're here right now, he's 22 years old. He's like pre-prime age for quarterbacks. What do you think of him for 2025?
Yeah, I'm confident in Kevin O'Connell. We've seen what he can do with quarterbacks. People wanted no part of Sam Darnold, thought he was terrible, and he has a top 10 QB season. So the pieces are there. There's great weapons around him with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, adding Jordan Mason to go with Aaron Jones
Oh,
in the
yeah.
backfield. McCarthy also could run a little bit as well. So I think you feel good about him. I definitely don't mind him as my second quarterback. That would be actually
That
ideal in
would
a
be
super
great.
flex league. In
Yeah.
a league where you start one quarterback and you have the roster space to have two, I don't mind him as my second one. And if he hits, then he might become your every week starter. So yeah, he's definitely on my radar.
How often in super flex leagues are you taking a third quarterback?
So I would like to. The problem is that a lot of times in the leagues I play in, people are way more aggressive.
Yeah,
Like
same.
sometimes they take them in round 9. That's a little early for me. So I think the super flex league I did, which was the Sirius XM host league, I didn't get a third quarterback. So everyone was pretty aggressive. Now we'll see what happens with Matthew Stafford, but I'm pretty sure Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't drafted. So that's a guy
Ick.
maybe you pick
Ugh.
up. We know that there's probably going to be multiple quarterbacks for Cleveland this year. Not the ideal situation, but uh, I just don't want to reach on that third quarterback. And I think some teams do it more aggressively than me. So that's why I don't always land a third one.
Yeah, I am in the same way where if I'm in a league and I see them start to take their third way earlier than I even expect, I'm like, okay, I might as well just wait and pick someone up off waivers if I can for that third quarterback is what we're talking about, not the second, obviously in a super flex, but we've seen, some waiver wire darlings come through these last couple of seasons and guys revive their career. We were just mentioning Sam Darnold. We've seen it done with, when we're talking waivers, Geno Smith's been able to do it as well. Last season we had Baker Mayfield, obviously not in a super flex league because he was taken, but he was coming off waivers too. So, a Jackson Dart is someone I'm eyeing, a potential third quarterback that maybe if he's able to play halfway through the season, he could step up. But I agree with you on all things JJ McCarthy. Definitely locking him into our lineups. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. We have to go here again because in case people missed that first part of the show here, we were talking about the Commanders potentially shopping Brian Robinson. Now, again, Adam, this is just a report that we saw from Jordan Schultz over the weekend. Doesn't mean that he's been traded yet. Obviously, maybe it's them trying to test the waters, see where other teams are at, and if they really want Brian Robinson Jr., what they could get in return for him. He hasn't been phenomenal. We'll just say that. He's averaged fewer than 4.1 yards per carry in 5 of the final 7 games last season. And it's just one of those guys where it's like, when you get to that range, you're like, okay, I mean, I guess there's potential here. But Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, are you locking him into your lineups? A good guy to have on your bench? Where are you at with him?
Look, I want him on my team. The problem is the price is about to skyrocket. And as with the news of Brian Robinson being shopped, even if it doesn't happen, people see it and they go, oh, Krosky Merritt, all the positive reports. I need to get him. So I loved him getting in the double digit rounds. I actually have quite a bit. in some of my best ball leagues and a couple early drafts. I think it's going to be really difficult now because I want to see where the market lands on him. But at every point, look, you could be high on a player and they have the good preseason and they get the buzz and they move up. And I hate it. That's the one thing I hate about the preseason. Like players that I like, I don't want to see them have a huge preseason because it generates all these highlights going around. Everyone talks about them and they move up draft boards. Now, if they're competing for a spot or a starting role, yeah, they obviously have to have a good training camp or preseason to ensure they get that position. But if I know that they have the job locked in, I want them to have a very quiet preseason. The worst thing they can do, like this Krosky Merritt thing is brutal if you were on him or you were taking him in double-digit rounds. In fact, I'm so mad because I was in a best ball and I was like, all right, I'm going to wait another round to get him. And what happens? Someone on the clock last night, when this news came out, they take him. And I'm like, damn it. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get him anymore at this point. So I want him on my roster, but I'm not going to overpay. There comes a point where it's like, all right, fine. Like we joke about people having my rankings and saying I'm going to take this guy. You can take him then. You want to go overpay, go ahead. I'll find someone else at value. That's where you can't be fixated on players. And a lot of players make this mistake. I got to get this guy. I need this guy. I need him on my roster. If the price is too high, you got to pass. Let someone else make that mistake.
Exactly. And it's just that's why we say ADP is a guide. And sometimes if we want to get our guys, what do we say, Adam? 1 to 2 rounds. We're looking at that and we're saying, it's the Emeka Egbuka conversation that we've had where you probably don't want to wait till his actual ADP because you're not going to get him. So getting a guy like Emeka Egbuka and going up there and saying, you know what, I'm just going to take him a round or two early. We don't want to go crazy. We'll always say that. Don't go nuts. But it is one of those things with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt right now. 14th round, and that, like you said, that's going to change. It's not even going to be close. Like he is going to be flying up draft boards way faster. I said this earlier, way faster than these ADP sites can even update because that's just what it's going to be. But I will say this does suggest that if they're comfortable shopping Brian Robinson Jr., this suggests that Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt for the Washington Commanders, they're okay with him being maybe the primary early down running back that they have. Even if he isn't traded, I'm curious if, they look at this and say, we want our best chance on the field, and it's not Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. So it's one to look at. We'll see if it happens. I wonder when the trade deadline is. I haven't even looked at that. But I'll say this too, Adam. Players that are in conversations right now, this early in August, if they're in trade conversations now, just wait until the trade deadline because it feels like this is going to ramp up again. Same with maybe a Tyreek Hill situation, unless that gets better. Some of these guys that we hear about in the summer, even closer a couple months ago, they're always probably going to come back and be involved in more trade conversations closer to the trade deadline, which could be fun.
Yeah, and it's clear that Washington not enamored with Robinson,
No,
and
it's
you could understand why.
Yeah, he hasn't. Yeah, like I said, he hasn't been phenomenal. That's no secret whatsoever. So again, keep an eye on it. But Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. So you're trying to get him, but we'll see if we'll pay the price. He's going to be expensive. So we'll see where he continues to go in drafts. Like I said, usually right now it's going to be updated, but it's not going to be round 14 anymore. Just like poor Emeka Egbuka for Adam Ronis. He was trying to keep the secret. He was trying to gatekeep, except for everyone listening to us right here on Fantasy Life, and we weren't able to do it. We're going to continue on though, Adam. I want to talk through fantasy sleeper ADP bargains and overvalues. You wrote this for the website at fantasylife.com. That was locking them in though, again, presented by Xfinity. So make sure they introduce the 5-year price guarantee. It's one consistent internet price for the next 5 years, totally guaranteed. We're going to go through your article, sleeper ADP bargains and overvalues, coming up here next. This is Fantasy Life right here. Hoping everyone is having a great start to their Monday, great start to the week. We know you are, though, because you're hanging out with us, and we appreciate it as always. Make sure you go to fantasylife.com, check out everything, all of our upgrades that we have on the website, all of our tools, and use that promo code because you guys are the best. SXM20 gets you 20% off any Fantasy Life Tier 1 or Tier 2 subscription. So the ADP tool that we always talk about, those projections that we have, the mock draft simulator. I did one over the weekend, Adam, wrote an article. I believe it should be out today. 10 team picking from the 8th spot and what you should look at starting 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. So again, the mock draft simulator is one of my favorite things to do to get ready for drafts. I will guaranteed Going to be doing it before our draft this weekend at 8 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday. That's more of a question, right? 8, 9, 10, 11 a.m. Saturday?
Yes, 11 a.m. Eastern. So 8 a.m. for you, which is not a big deal. You're up early every day
That's
anyway.
fine. It's fine.
It is early for me, but I'll figure it
You'll
out.
be okay. I'm going to
Yeah.
manifest that people freak out on Ashton Genty and Genty falls to 12, and then I can have Brian Thomas Jr. But that's probably not going to happen.
Don't see that happening. If the draft was this weekend before the second game for Genty, maybe. But I also did an article using the Draft Champion mock simulator with a tight end premium build. So you could see how that works out there as well.
We're not tight end premium.
In our league, no. But I'm saying that was my assignment.
I was like, wow, maybe I should read the rules because I need to figure. I know what's going to happen. And it's going to be Puka Nacua and it's going to be Achane. And I will complain about it at least once and then figure it out. But that's what we do here.
You could always go back to Marvin Harrison.
Stop. Don't do this to me. At the time, it was a good pick.
It's always a good pick at the time. And then the games start and we're like, oh, this is terrible.
Maybe he comes back to me at the third. I cannot see that either.
He might.
No.
He might.
Well, yeah, maybe. We'll see. Fantasy sleeper ADP bargains and overvalues. You did write this article though at fantasylife.com. I know we talked about Tedero McMillan before with Dwain McFarland, but I just want to mention him again in case we've talked about rookies, Adam, but Tedero McMillan, people in your leagues coming up might look at just the Carolina Panthers and say, I want no part of that. Why would I want that? It's Bryce Young. Even if he plays at his best, what does that give us? A top 18 quarterback potentially? But with Tedero McMillan, we talk about volume, and the potential targets that he's going to get in 2025 are incredible.
Yeah, no question about it. And I am with Dwayne as well. I think it was the Flex League draft. I took him, I believe, in round 4. I can't remember. That was like weeks ago now. But I did take him there. And yeah, I was surprised. So I will say this, sleepers ADPs compared to the Fantasy Life ranks are pretty sharp. There was not a lot of discrepancies. Now, I do have another article coming out. I think it's Wednesday. That's on ESPN. That article could take, that might take me all night. Like I could find a ton. So that'll be more interesting. But I will say the ones on Sleeper are pretty sharp. There's just not a lot of discrepancies. But yeah, this one with Tedero McMillan, they have him as wide receiver 28. I would definitely take him higher. Again, he is that big X receiver that they were missing for Bryce Young. 6'5", 219. We saw in that first preseason game that nice pass along the sideline. So, yeah, he's in a good situation where he's going to command a lot of targets. So I definitely would take him higher than this 28 on Sleeper.
Yeah, he's been a priority target for me based on his ADP, depending on where you're looking. Again, we're talking about sleepers, so a little bit different there, but it's a good call out. Ricky Pearsall is another one where, again, this 49ers team seems to be, especially the receiver room, banged up. We're still waiting on news about Jawan Jennings, not only for him just being sidelined due to an injury, but also the contract situation is still kind of up in the air. So Ricky Pearsall for you, Fantasy Life rank is wide receiver 38, going wide receiver 43. Again, not a crazy difference, Adam, but big enough where we could say, hey, this isn't right on this on Sleeper.
Yeah, and I think it should be even higher than 38. I think he's in a great spot right now where, again, with Ayuk likely to start on PUP, and we don't know what he's going to return. What was the quote? Like, it could be week 5. It could be week 10. So that's a question there. And, again, we have not seen Jawan Jennings on the field, so Pearsall set up. It's probably going to be a lot of McCaffrey, Kittle, and Pearsall to start the year. So we saw a nice finish to the year last year for Pearsall. It was an insane rookie year, obviously dealing with that getting shot, and then he had some injuries during the season as well. And then we saw the last 2 weeks where he finished very well. So, yeah, he's way too low at wide receiver 43 on Sleeper.
When we talk about calculated risks and taking risks with our drafts, but making sure that we're coming back and, padding some of the wide receivers that we draft because of it, making sure that we're making smart moves around, taking a potential, who did we just mention for it? Like, taking a potential Rashee Rice, a potential Jordan Addison. Is Jawan Jennings in that bucket for you right now of a risky pick, or do you think this is more a hey, this is a contract situation? He doesn't want to get hurt in training camp. I do believe that he is hurt, Adam, but I've seen the conversations going around where is he actually hurt, or does he want to make sure that he gets paid before if he were to get hurt in training camp, that's obviously going to hurt his chances. Where are you at with Jawan Jennings? Are you still drafting him?
Yeah, I'm still open to taking him, especially if that price drops, because again, there's an opportunity there for him, and we saw last year he was good when he got that chance. So they just don't have a lot of depth at the receiver position. So I am willing to take him, especially if again the price is going to drop. But yeah, but I have a lot of Pearsall so far, a lot.
I'm still open to draft. I was thinking about this the other day because we've talked a lot of Ricky Pearsall, but Jawan Jennings is kind of now faded it maybe into some people's minds in the background, and I don't want that to happen to some people because I feel like if Ricky Pearsall's off the board, Jawan Jennings is still a nice guy to go and get, especially at some of these prices because now we've finally seen Ricky Pearsall going ahead of him. Most of the offseason, it was Jawan Jennings ahead of Ricky Pearsall. So if you're not able to get Pearsall, I still think the price at like 120 plus on ESPN and CBS, I feel like that's a really nice price. Same with even Yahoo, pick 104, 101, 104, 101 is like, it's still right there for Yahoo and Sleeper. But just because of what we saw from him last season, I mean, those numbers last year, 26, what he had 34% air yard share, 2.26 yards per route run, which is wide receiver one worthy. If he is able to come back and he's not, been able to heal from the injury and they get the contract situation figured out, we still have Brandon Ayuk recovering. Debo Samuel's gone. Ricky Pearsall will be there, but I don't know. Feels like a good spot for him.
Yeah, especially if you can get him in an area where he's on your bench early
Yeah.
in the season. I'm definitely more open to that. Again, everyone's league is different with starting lineups, but yeah, I'm still willing to draft him. It's just you would like to see him back on the field.
Don't forget about him, right? That's just one of those things where we get enamored with the guy that is definitely looking like a potential breakout candidate, as we should with Ricky Pearsall. But there's always potential that we see Jawan Jennings come back and we say, oh yeah, there's Jawan Jennings stepping up in this offense. So we're gonna continue on here let's talk about guys we should talk about more. I've got some guys based on their ADP. Should we be looking at them and expecting a potential bigger role for 2025? We're gonna talk about these guys here coming up next. As always, appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. Make sure you stay locked in right here, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, because we've got great lineups to get you ready for your drafts. Send us I want to see screenshots of your teams at Valenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there on X on Twitter. Same with any questions you have. If you can't get through, can't call in during this show, during this time, make sure you send us your questions over there and we're going to try and get them answered as well. Should we be talking about them more, Adam? Should we be talking about some of these players based on their ADPs, where they're going? Do they have a chance to outperform? I feel like we've talked a lot of RJ Harvey. I want to ask you about J.K. Dobbins and maybe your expectations for him and how we're building our leagues, because depending on where you're drafting, sometimes he came up in one of my drafts a couple of days ago, and I actually looked at him and I considered, taking him, even though I try to get a good amount of RJ Harvey. The expectations are maybe at the beginning, J.K. Dobbins has this bigger role. He stayed mostly healthy last season, so that was pretty good for him. But what are your expectations? He finished RB 23 last season, averaged 13.5 PPR points per game. I want to say that doesn't sound right though, but let me look into it. J.K. Dobbins for you though.
Yeah, I have drafted him. I obviously prefer RJ Harvey, who doesn't, but we know that the price is way higher on him. And you do have to worry probably about health long term for Dobbins, but we know the Sean Payton backfield is valuable for running backs, and we could see Dobbins get some opportunity, especially in the passing game early in the season. So that's where his value comes in. And, he's one of those running backs you're taking as a swing at the fence for your RB2.
Mm-hmm.
The way I build teams, or I have, I'll have like a bunch of guys that I'm looking to be my RB2, and Dobbins is in that conversation for me.
Any of the wide receivers, I should say, for the Indianapolis Colts, should we be talking? Because we've talked to Tyler Warren, but when we look through, I mean, and you and I talked about JT in the break here, but I mean, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, more specifically, comfortable taking them or not
I
really?
like Downs, but he's dealing with this hamstring issue right
Yeah,
now, so
that's a tough
that's a
part.
problem.
He flashed wide receiver one potential when we look at the underlying data, but I don't know. They're supposed to name a quarterback this week too.
It's
Huzzah!
likely going to be Richardson.
Huzzah! No? You're not
Yeah,
excited? That's fine. We'll
very
get excited
excited
about it. Whatever. FantasyLife.com SXM20 gets you 20% off. We'll see you same time here tomorrow.